Oh, if you're feeling frustrated trying to become eligible to monetize your content, you no longer have to feel that way. Today on the special edition of HouJack DMS, we're going to talk about using Patreon to take control of your brand, your content, and your profits. We are ready. We are ready to talk about it. We are ready. I am Gwendolyn, GR Houston Jack. Welcome to HouJack DMS Live Learning. We are streaming to YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook. So happy to be doing this special edition because, I got to thinking for myself, maybe I should monetize my content. I just don't know. And like a lot of you, as a shopper, I thought I should probably talk to someone who has either used something I want to use or is currently using something I want to use. So before I welcome our very special guest, if you will, because you don't have to, but put in the comments where you're tuning in from, what platform, what city, what state, what country. Let us know in the comments because, we like to talk to all the people. And I see we have our dear friend Spencer coming in from Atlanta. Afternoon, sir. Afternoon to you. We have Patty tuning in from LinkedIn. Howdy. Patty is a fellow Texan. Can I just go ahead and say that? Hello, Patty. We also have Gary here. Gary is here as well. Man, we got the people showing up today. But before I get too far in it, let's talk about our special guest, Mr. Ron Foster of RonLouis Photos, representing Brooklyn. Yes. Ron, please tell us who you are, sir, and what you do.
Okay, my name is Ron Foster, obviously, and I am a photographer here in New York City, a visual storyteller, I like to say. I photograph. I do photojournalism. I do headshots. I do street photography. I do everything except for weddings, weddings and babies.
And babies. Okay.
Babies, weddings and babies are only for family.
Okay. Now, I can't help but notice how you left out this huge chunk of where you've been published. I appreciate modesty, but we like to toot the horn here. We like to toot the horn. So, sir, please, can you just fill in up just a little bit more of what you have done and are doing?
Okay, so my first publication was National Geographic. And that was for a story. It was for really National Geographic, Your Shot. And it was regarding, they had an article that they were putting together called Pops of Color. So I ended up putting a photo together that I took about 2 weeks before this need for photography for National Geographic. And I just said, I'll just submit it, see what happens. And out of 15,000 photos that were submitted, I was one of 30 for this article. So that was the first one. And then last year, in 2021, I had the opportunity to photograph Iceland, volcanic eruption, the first eruption in 800 years on what's called the peninsula. And I got a chance to photograph that. And then it made it to the New Yorker for in the August 2021 date of the 23rd, which is my birthday in February, but it's 23rd nonetheless. And it was it was in the publication, so I was very happy. And then also Interior Design Magazine and a lot of local publications, The Match, and other places here in New York City. So yes, and then I got and I just got a cover a couple of weeks ago on US VC.
Thank you, sir. I get it. People talk about not being boastful and all this other. We don't live in those circles. I don't live there. So I am like, when you're standing on the soapbox, you need to let people know you are an amazing, amazing creative with great talent. But let
Well,
us get
thank
into why we're here today, because I want to hear about Patreon. Now, I want to set the stage. And if you are a creative in the crowd today, you have questions about Patreon and being monetized. Here's the deal. I go back to this as a person who is cautious as a shopper.
you.
I want real hand experience from people who have used the product or are using a product. Ron is not representing Patreon, but he is a current user of the platform. So we are getting his opinion as a creative on using this to monetize our content and control our brand. Understand that first and foremost, full disclosure. Okay. He's like, just
And I am far from expert. I'm just getting started.
but compared to the rest of us, hey. So let's go to this. Who is Patreon for? Would you please?
Patreon is for creatives. It's a platform where you can monetize your creativity, whether you're an artist, a sketcher, a singer, a journalist, if you are a photographer like myself. There's so many different kinds of creatives on the platform of Patreon. So it's a great way. We have all these platforms. We have Instagram, Facebook, YouTube.
Right.
However, you can't really, they're all free technically. I mean, they're getting your information, so you're paying
Yes.
for it. But that's another story that's for another day. But what they're doing, Patreon allows you to create content for those who believe in your content, who believe in what you're doing. They either like what you're giving to the world, they like your art, they love your position on political or storytelling. They simply believe in what you're doing, and you monetize based on their commitment to you.
If I had to think about other times in this world where technology has leveled the playing field, this is another one, right? Because
Yeah.
YouTube gave us access to all the things, being able to take your singing career and bring the music right to the people. You cut out all the shopping of your demo and what have you, being able to self-publish your own book. So we keep finding ways where technology allows us to take out the middleman, take out all the hard steps, and find ways to monetize our gifts. I love it. I am here for it. So before I go on and keep this conversation going, shout out to my baby brother, the Black Eighth Element, who is highly creative, who has created for me a few beats and theme songs, because I have like all this music in my head, but I'm not inclined in that manner. So I would love to know, if you will, community, put in the chat what you do. Like if you're a photographer, a writer, podcast, or whatever, let the people know. I would really love to know how many creatives we have here and what we're doing. Would love to hear that. But I also want to, I love, as Spencer says, I love a good sidebar. I love a good sidebar. So I want to do a fun facts sidebar. Ron, if you know, what's the most money a person has generated with Patreon? Just if you have any numbers.
So far, we ran through these numbers. One day we were just hanging out with G and I was saying, wow. And I don't have the exact numbers because I didn't go back into my generator. It's called a generated Patreon. But we were surprised that there were people that were making, that I should say that are making averages starting. The top was, I think the top was like $300,000 per month.
I must have missed that one. Wait a minute, really?
Yeah, it was
Did I miss that?
290.
Oh,
It was
snap.
297. Yeah.
I
Then there
didn't
was
know
a
that. I
then
didn't
there
know
was
that.
another one that was, and then the other ones were like 247,000 a month. Then it just kept going down from, so you had like
Yeah.
these incredible 247,000, 250,000, 239,000. I mean, I could not believe that these people were making money on Patreon like that a month.
I did not
Then
know
there
there
were
was
people,
300,000. I did not know that. I'm sitting here like, wait a minute, what? What'd you
yeah, and then there were people that were making 90,000 a month, 147,000 a month, 60,000 a month, and it just kept, this chart just keeps bringing you
Yeah.
down.
Yeah.
And there are certain fields that are more, you made more money in more like gaming. There were gamers, there were photographers, there were but the photographers weren't up there on the top, which I was surprised. I think the most, one photographer makes $74,000 a month, which is still good.
That's
When you
very
think
good. I mean, for some
$74,000 a
people, that's like their
month,
yearly salary.
exactly. And then you had the averages out to roughly like 60,000, 50,000. They just kept dwindling down.
Yeah.
And then obviously to people like myself, that's like $400.
Okay, yeah, but here's the deal, though. Here's the deal. That's an extra 400 you didn't even have before.
Exactly.
Right?
Well, what happened was, remember, so last year how I got into this is because I've had a Patreon account since 2016, recommended by a friend. I was going on starting my photography journey, and she says, "Oh, you need to get a Patreon so people can invest in you." And I didn't use it. I had it, and it was just sitting in dormant, on the side. And then finally, last year, I decided to use it. The reason why is because my business model went from being just a photographer. At first, I was just a photographer, doing headshots, photographing the streets, doing things that made money. Just basically, that was you do service and get paid.
Yeah. Yeah.
However, last year, my business model had to include being an artist. And because I had transitioned a part of my business model into being an artist, because I was asked to do an exhibition here in New York City, and I had the exhibition showing the photos that I had photographed in Iceland. Well, I had never done an exhibition before, and I was simply taking money out of my pocket. I took money out of my bottom line, as they say. And so I took money out of my pocket to pay for the processing, to pay for the photography, to pay for all the things I needed to do. And then I didn't calculate that if I'm in exhibition, which was for a month, it was a month, I would not be working regular because I'm at the gallery.
Right.
I'm at the gallery supporting the art. So it was a big hole in my finances because of this exhibition. However, I did it because it gave me leverage to say, wow, my work has been in an exhibition, one. Number two, it gave more eyes on my work. And that was worth it. It was like, it's an investment. But then I said, how can I do this differently? And then it clicked. Patreon. I said, I got a Patreon account. Let me use Patreon. And so I set it up.
Okay.
I took a weekend, went through all the other Patreons out there, kind of say, what would my Patreon look like? And then I began to set it up, and I set it up in a way, and then I just started to ask people to join my Patreon. And at the time, it was my closest friends. They were just, Gwendolyn, a couple of, it was like 15 people. 15 people joined my Patreon. and then over the year, because it's almost a year, so I'm going to have a year anniversary celebration, and I'll
Oh,
tell you more about that. But I'll have a year celebration come July 1st, because will be a year that I've been on Patreon, as it using it.
yes.
And so, and now I have 34 Patreon members, and I make roughly 400 bucks a month on my Patreon, for my Patreon community. And this year, as I'm in exhibition, and my exhibition starts next weekend, the Patreon community paid for the artist side of my business model.
That's
So
awesome sauce.
I did not have to go out of my savings. I did not have to go into the bottom line, but I was able to say, you know what? Here's some money that I've accumulated from my Patreon
Mhm.
audience who believe in me and support me, and I was able to pay for this show. Yeah.
Man, so let me just bring everybody up to speed, because like I said, I didn't know about the 300,000. I must have missed that part of the conversation. I was like, wait a minute, what? Now we're going to give you all the details. So I do want to make sure that we talk about that. If you've never done any jogging or exercising, this is a marathon. All
A
right, so
marathon.
it's a marathon. But before we continue, we are talking with Ron Foster about taking control of your content, your brand, and your profits by using Patreon. And so let's get into some questions. We do have some questions in the comments, but we'll come into that. Your opinion, why do you believe Patreon is better than waiting to be monetized by a social media platform? Because, those are some gaudy numbers.
Well, just like everyone else that seems to have been, Patreon has given creatives supplemental income as they continue to grow in their creativity. I mean, you don't start out in Patreon saying, this is going to pay my rent, my mortgage, and everything else. It doesn't work that way. It's simply saying, hey, look, if I can get a couple of dollars to support what I'm doing, that's a great thing. That's a win. When it was just 15 Patreon members, I was like, this is a win. I mean, that's groceries a month. It was like, okay, the grocery bill is going to be paid. But now, a year later, and having in my audience, in my Patreon community, I have members that have $3 a month that dedicate to me. I have 2 Patreon members that give me $100 a month. And that blew my mind. Like, wait a minute. Someone believes in me enough,
I know, right?
to give me $100 a month, and they believed in what I was doing. And it was quite a humbling experience. It was a moment of saying, wow, you know what? You do have some worth.
Yeah.
You do. So it's kind of like there's 2 things that are going on at the same time at Patreon.
Okay.
There's one is the audience, that you are giving back to your audience, the people that believe in you. So you're giving them a platform where you can give back to them as they give to you. So you create these tiers. Each tier you give back on a certain level. So that's one thing. But also, as you see people investing in you, it really does something for you psychologically to say, wait a minute, people are taking their hard-earned money to invest in me, to do what I love to do. And that, to me, has been a twofold blessing. And I love it because one is I felt like on Instagram, face it, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, all of them, we work our tails off in posting and sharing and giving our work away.
Sure
right?
do.
We give our work away to a lot of people, but very few really appreciate it. I mean, you got the audience that like they send you a couple of likes. But not only that, you can't be a slave to the algorithms. And the algorithms on Instagram kept changing. So you will have
Ooh.
50 people that see your work one day, but then maybe 2 people that see your work the next day. So the
Yep.
algorithms, and Patreon is not based on
Yep.
algorithms. It's what you put into it, how you generate, how you communicate with your audience. So that's why I made that leap. And also something that I learned is that you have to already have an audience.
Okay.
So yeah, it really helps to have an audience already, which I had started a year ago, my Touch Base Daily.
Okay.
So my Touch Base Daily, I come on Instagram every day at 11 o'clock, 11:15. And so I began to build an audience. And so from that audience is how my Patreon community also continued to grow.
Well, that goes right into our next question, and we are going to get to the questions in the comments. So we are definitely going to get to it because people are. I mean, I'm curious myself. But you're mentioning having the following. So Patreon has helped you control your content and your brand, because I'm going to say Instagram. Oh my! I could give it a Viking funeral. You have no idea. When I was playing the game, doing the 3 times a day and trying to get all the stories in, and then let's do reels because photos are dead, and it's so agitating. At one point I couldn't even leave a story. There's no customer service, and when I would do a live, I had to find a back door to download my content. So I said, you know what, we have to jump off of this ship and take it to like some other place, because it's ridiculous.
Yes.
You do all the stuff and you get like nothing from it. Nothing. So if anything, I am thinking at this point, I want to use it to grow the presence, but I'm looking at Patreon to control like what content is going where.
Yes.
So you were talking about doing your live every single day and how that's helped you build your community and a following that now that you're actively using your Patreon account, that's helped you grab more people to donate.
Yeah. So
should they invest? My bad. Invest.
They're investing in you. Folks are literally investing in you. And you also, again, for instance, in my Patreon community, what I do is I will every quarter, I will have different things going on. I will give my audience, my sponsors, a free download. So they can go to my website and they can get a free download. And I also allow them to vote on the download for that quarter. So like we're getting ready to do another download because it's June. So a free download to everyone. So people get a download from my website, which is able to go to CVS, Walgreens, anywhere they want, print it 5x7, because that's as much as I'm going to give you. But it's a 5x7, and they could put it into a beautiful frame and put it on the wall. So, and that's for the Patreon community. So, not only that, but once a month for my Patreon community, I teach photography. So they come in every third Wednesday or third Thursday of the month. I offer them a class. I give them a class. And it doesn't matter what their tier is. It doesn't matter if they have $3 a month or $100 a month. I make sure that everyone's going to learn photography. And that means not big, giant, I can always have my big, giant Nikon or whatever, but simple photography that people can use with their smartphones.
That's a good one.
So that's what we do on the third week of every month. And so we'll cover we did leading lines, or we did shadows and light, or we'll do the first one we did was camera nomenclature. So we talked about all of the bells and whistles that you have on your smartphone and how you can use your smartphone. And then another month, we did we did just a touch base of all the editing tools that are available to you. So each month I give my community education. And so it gives, now I could do that on Instagram, and I
No,
probably
no,
could do it on YouTube, but that's just, I mean, you're just
give
throwing it
it
out
away.
to people that don't
Yeah,
really, I feel like if someone's investing in you, even if it's a $3 or $5, that's hard-earned money that they are
yeah.
taking from their wallet, from their life, and they're giving to you. It's the least I can do to give back to them. And that's why I love Patreon, because I get to give back to people that give to me.
Mhm.
And then they also get to see where their money's going. Like this week, it was last week, it was Thursday. I mentioned to my community on Instagram and my Patreon members who are in my Instagram audience, I said to them in my live, hey guys, I did so well on my Patreon these last couple of months. I'm taking $100 and donating it to prom dresses to a school that I designed as an interior designer.
Okay.
And so it's a high school, and kids couldn't go to school, couldn't go to their prom. So people donate. So I said, I'm giving $100 of my Patreon, contribution sponsors to the school. And it blew my mind. Now, the people that are in the Patreon community are also in my IG, but other folks said, hey, what about me? I want to give. And they were like, Ron,
Mm.
could you send me your Cash App? And I said, oh, I could do better. I could just put it on the Instagram.
Yeah.
And in literally it had to be like 4 minutes, maybe 3 minutes, we were able to raise $250 for kids
Oh,
that needed money to
oh.
go to their prom. And then I was supposed to go there in the morning, but the principal, she was stuck in a meeting with the mayor. So I said, that's cool. I'll come by in the afternoon. What time are you going to be there? So I mentioned that to the audience again on Friday.
Mhm.
And they were like, yo, I want to be a part of it. At the end of the day, I was able to give that school $375
That's
for
awesome.
their
No.
kids to have pay for
Ugh,
their prom. Was $125 a person. And a lot of kids in the urban setting can't afford to
that's a
go to their
lot.
proms.
Was that right?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
So the Patreon community
Mm.
was the ones that were like, yo, I'm in this. I'm
Mhm,
with you.
mhm,
I
mhm,
believe in your cause.
mhm, mhm,
And
mhm,
that's why I love it, because it has created we're a small community,
mhm.
but nonetheless, we're a community, and we could do great things with our small community. And the principal was so happy. She was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. And I said, I have a great community.
Well, since you're talking about community and you've already shared with us how it's clearly impacted your life and the life of others, I'm also hearing too that yes, the opportunity to take your current content and really get the most bang for your buck does exist, but you also have to return something to these investors.
That's right.
So it's not just I have a video, you're giving classes, you're giving them a free download that they can go print. So they are getting something and they're seeing how their money's being used and where it's going. So it's
Yes.
not just, hey, I signed up, I got some followers and come give me some
Oh
cash.
yeah,
You
it ain't
have
gonna
to
work.
show up.
That's not
You
gonna
have to
work.
show up. People
You
are
gotta show
putting
up.
their money someplace. It's like, I want to know where the money's going. So I can see how, you being an established photographer, giving people lessons, like their cell phone, that's a lot of value right there. That's a lot
Yeah.
of value because we have our cell phone on our person all the time, all the time.
And folks want to know how to take better pictures.
Yeah,
People
yeah.
want to take better pictures. And what better way than to teach them basic composition that every photographer learns, and they get to learn it because they're part of my community. I love it. It's a win-win to me. It's a win-win.
It
I
does
get to
make,
teach
yeah,
and
yeah.
share, and we grow together. And what I found is that my Instagram followers that became Patreon members end up in the community in Instagram now knowing who each other are because we do our teaching on Zoom. So I'll get them a Zoom link. They all come in on Zoom and we're all sitting there like, oh my gosh, that's such and such. Because they only knew each other by Instagram handles.
Yeah.
But now they see each other. Now they're talking to each other. They even sometimes go out and hang out. So it's truly building community. So I mean, and everyone uses Patreon differently. That's all. When Gwendolyn asked me to do this, I can't just come on here and just I went on and I started to look at all of the people that had Patreon and why they had them, or lessons on Patreon, how to do this in Patreon. And I went through and I saw there were a couple of people that said they hated Patreon. And there were a couple people that said, hey, I love it. It has given me a platform to be able to give back. So it's both extremes, but most people love it.
Well, since you went there, let's go ahead and get into it with our comments, what have you. So a couple of things. Again, we are talking to Ron Foster of RonLouis Photos in Brooklyn. You know, I'd be like, Brooklyn!
Brooklyn in the house.
Brooklyn's in the house. I can't help it. But we're talking about taking control of your content, of your brand, and your profits with Patreon. So since you went there, how would someone know if Patreon is the right platform for their content and brand? You just started talking about it, and then we'll answer these questions in here.
Because again, it brings me joy. It brings me, because I'm not on it just to receive money. The money is great. Believe me, having that $400 come in a month now is like, that's the mortgage. So it's like the mortgage is just about being paid all the way together. So that helps. That means that's one less thing I have to think about as I'm building my business. And I'm creating a community. And I'm building a community that's also going to purchase from me, because some of the people purchase from me from the same community. They've bought my photography from my store or my website. It's a win-win for me. And then I saw when I was researching how the few people that did not like it, and then I said, why are these people not liking it? Then I went back to the people that did love it and began to answer their questions of why they didn't like it, but they didn't know they didn't know why they didn't like it. And you have to build trust. You have to build trust with the community. And folks think, okay, I pop on here, I'll have a Patreon, and people are gonna give money to me. No. People see me online every day, 11:15. I'm on rain, snow, sleet, cold,
smoke.
I am online every day, 11:15, to touch base with my audience. And that's why I call it Touch Base Daily. Just me touching base. So you build trust. You have to build trust. And a lot of folks, the folks that were not pleased with Patreon, they did not build trust. You cannot. And then I went through all the other folks that were successful, and they said, oh, you had to do it for the minimum a year before you start getting momentum, because people want to know if you're going to be around.
Yeah. And that makes sense.
People are not going to throw you money at you and you're not going to be around. 6
months is like just a drop on any kind of presence on the web. So you've got to give it at least a year.
You gotta give it a year. And one guy said a year and a half. Year and a half. He was doing it for a year and a half. He just had like a little trinkle here and there along the way. And then one person, she had 2,300, 2347. Yeah, 2,347 Patreon members. And she says she loses 150 every month.
Really? Snap.
She's,
Well, yeah, because you can
and
come and go.
she gains. She said she loses 150, but she gains 150.
Huh.
And she said it's okay. She
Yeah.
goes, because people have different life situations.
Yeah.
Some people
Yeah.
lose their jobs. Some people only want to be committed for 6 months. Some people want to just give money one time. Some people want to support you with $1. Some people want to support you wherever they are economically. Some people have hardships. Some people are changing jobs. And then some people leave and then come back. So you have to be okay that your Patreon foundation flow is not going to always be the same people.
Yeah.
Like, I will never forget, I had one person delete, and they only gave what, $20 or $30,
Yeah.
and then they were, they said, they were done. I was like, oh my gosh, they left me. They left. I was like having a moment. I was like, and I didn't know until I saw the video doing my research that this is the norm. And I was like, wait a minute, I only got one person that left, so I can't be upset. Out of 35, I had 35 people, and I was down to one. I mean, that left, but I have 34. 34 people. So
people are gonna come and go. It's
you're
just like
gonna come
social
and go.
media. People follow you, they unfollow you, and then they come back and follow you again. It's like, wait a minute, you follow me again, so what did you unfollow me? Did I miss that?
I see Patty says, what's the fee? So what usually happens is under a certain dollar amount is like 2% they take from you for Patreon, and then above that dollar, I forgot what dollar is it, $3? I think it's above $3 or $4. And then at $5 is 5% they take. So if you can do the math. So if it's if it's $100, they're taking $5.
Okay. Gary has, I guess, sort of like the same question. Do you pay a fee to set up your Patreon?
No, you don't. You can just go on for free and set it up. It's a what they call just a basic Patreon account, and the only thing that they do when you have the basic Patreon is that once people start paying you per month, they just take their percentage, and you'll see your actual after their percentage. So when you go to your page, it will show you what you make.
Well, I've got a question that's clearly not in the comments and not in the banners. Would you suggest, because my wheels are turning, sister here's like, man, how do we make this work? would you suggest before we jump out there and create our account that we write down what tiers we want and what we want to offer? And like how we're going to say, I'm going to do, like you say, you do like once a quarter or something, a class, like have that kind of figured out, because clearly you have to add that stuff in there.
One of the things you want to do is, what do you want to offer, and what's been, I have many tiers because I started out and I just went like and put all these tiers, but what I learned now that I've been doing this for like really consistently being a part of this community, is that people just start out with 3 tiers.
Oh.
And this was the average from everyone. 1 tier that says thank you. 1 tier that gives your audience early access.
Ooh.
That's like the 2nd tier. And then the 3rd tier is name credit. So when you are doing something, put their names on your YouTube video. Put their name on your whatever maybe you're putting out on Instagram or putting out on LinkedIn or whatever. Like I do on my LinkedIn, I do phototherapy Wednesdays. At the end of my phototherapy Wednesday, I now put my Patreon people and say, this content is sponsored by my Patreon community.
Yeah. And I see that like on YouTube, I've seen at the end of people's videos, it'll say, we're thanking our Patreon members, and they've got like names just listed. I'm like, what in the world? Like, what?
Yes.
What? So I like that. So 3 basic tiers.
Yes.
A thank you tier, an early access tier, and then a name credit, right?
Yes. And the early access, it could be you're getting ready to come out with a new photo to your group, or maybe a new art piece, or you're going to have an art gallery showing. Like, for instance, some of my Patreon members, when I have my exhibition next week, they're going to get invitation to come out 2 or 3 hours and get a personal tour with myself, taking them through the art, my photography.
I'm sitting here thinking like, okay, G, what can you do? What can you do? What can you do? You can get creative, right? Because like the whole idea is to create this level of being exclusive.
Yes.
So it's figuring out what's the good amount, what do we want to offer, and then at the exact same time deciding what's not going to go on Instagram and what's not going to go on YouTube or Facebook, because now I have to make sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like there's some things, for instance, yesterday I went and photographed the smoky New York. I photographed, I went through the streets and photographed it. And then I showed the audience on my Touch Base Daily this morning the photos from my Lightroom, from my editing tool.
Mm-hmm.
However, maybe one photo may go online, or maybe 2 or 3, but the rest of those photos are to my Patreon community.
Okay.
So they're gonna all they can go. They all got a notice about 20 minutes ago that here's some photos I took yesterday while walking the streets of New York.
With a mask on, I'm sure.
Yes, with a mask on. A mask and a tubie.
It is some kind of woo.
Yes, yesterday New York City, we were on Mars yesterday.
Yes, it was red. I was like, that's insane.
Yes. Yeah,
it's insane.
The streets of New York City were orange.
Oh my goodness. So before we wrap this up, because I knew it was going to go more than 30 minutes.
Of course, you knew that. Are there any more questions?
Yeah, I want to give our viewers one more opportunity to ask any of the questions. Like I said, I got my question answered because I'm thinking, how do I want to get started? I'm going to jot this down, and we will put it in. I am used to the long journey. I have done my fair share of marathons, half marathons, and all the things. So I am good with waiting to get stuff in. But it is a blessing to have people who believe in you and want to invest in you. Like, that's a whole nother conversation. Like, I'm so digging that. Like, that's another thing. But it is the idea of, one, being consistent, and 2, staying the course. Because
staying the course.
This is not a turn it on and money just rains on you. It is about building trust.
It's building trust, and let me tell you, the days that it's a motivator also for you as an artist, because some days face it, a lot of us creatives and artists, we go into our depression, we go into our little silos. However, because I have this Patreon community, and I know they are online, they're with me, they're supporting me, it makes me get out of bed when I don't want to get out of bed. It's a motivator.
It's a motivator.
It's a motivator. I'm like, these people believe in me. You better get your butt up and believe in yourself.
That's a good one. I like that.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to. These folks believe in you. You better get your butt up and get to going, because you better believe in yourself. Because there's moments as artists we don't.
Yeah, because it can that little voice, it does get active in here. Ron, thank you so much for giving us this advice. Before we let you go to create more things, because I know you're not going outside, but smoke and whatnot.
No.
How can people
looking out the window
get in touch with you, follow you, and if they are in the, as I like to say, New York tri-state area, how can they attend the exhibition that's happening, you say, next week?
The opening is you can, first of all, you can if you go to my Instagram page, which is IG RonLouis Photos, follow me on IG. In the link above in my bio will take you to my link tree, which will give you information about everything I'm doing. So you can find everything. I do a meetup every month where photographers come together. We get together, and New York City becomes the backdrop, and we do street photography. You'll see that on my Linktree link, my bio link. We have the exhibition coming up. You'll see that there. And that's you'll see everything about me in my website. Everything lives in my.
Everything lives there. Your book, everything lives there. Everything.
My book, everything. Yes.
He said everything. Okay, wait. it would be Spencer to leave us a last minute comment when I'm about to like wrap this up. I love him dearly. He says, you guys did such a good job. All my questions got answered. Thank you. And just so you know, I thought about them, spell checked them, and before I could hit enter, you answered them. Oh, Spencer, thank you so much. We try. We try. Erica is saying hello, Ron. Hello. Shout out to Erica, representing Austin, Texas. And he was like, yeah, I just been typing over here. You're a slow typer. But we love it. We love it. Patty says, congratulations on the exhibit. If I see the Mac in Dallas, we'll show your work. Hey, I'd be there. Nice. Hey, that's good. You know, you should take it on the road.
Oh yeah. Oh, I'm ready.
Get you a few more patrons and take your show on the road.
That's
now
right.
I feel like I should do like an exhibit. Yeah. Right? Like I'm thinking maybe I need to get out of my comfort zone and do like some other things. Like
or you can represent me in Texas.
Oh, right. Oh my goodness. Like, you know, when you just start thinking like, wait a minute, there's so many possibilities. It goes back to that whole idea of, are we thinking big enough? Because the technology is now there for us to go for whatever we want. I'm like, let's get it. Let's do it.
Thank you, Gary.
Gary says, thank you so much, Ron. He said I'm a best. leave it to
Spencer. I'm the same way. Let me tell you, Grammarly is my friend, but sometimes it beats me up.
Right, it does.
I'm like, Grammarly, stop it, Grammarly.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so as we're turning this off, if you haven't already, make sure you like, share, and subscribe if you are on YouTube to HouJack DMS. There's another comment. Oh, it's Erica.
Erica sends a laugh. I love it.
Oh my God, I gotta stop. If you're not following us on YouTube, then look for HouJack DMS. That is HouJack Digital Marketing Solutions. I'm on LinkedIn. I love the human connection. So link up with me on LinkedIn. I already have an idea. Okay, so we're not going to end this show. Yeah. I like that damn visual exhibits. Oh my goodness. I love the human connection. So if you are in this area, the DFW area, I do get to New York, from time to time. I got to go back to my own stomping grounds. Walk heights and whatnot. I'm always up there too, so who knows? But link up with me, Gwendolyn R. Houston Jack on LinkedIn, and then you can find me on Instagram at Black Power Bunny. All right, we're gonna say goodbye. Thank you, Ron.